Hi, so I'm back to talk about Lene Marie Fossen's TED Talk. And in Norway in 2017, Lene Marie was in conversation with another Norwegian artist. And so it's a really nice dynamic to see them speaking together about her art and about her life. And it's actually a 17-minute video. I'm not going to go through the whole video. I'm actually going to look at a couple of really key points that come up in conversation, which really feed into the dialogue of what we're talking about through these videos. So disordered eating and some of the ways that that comes out in art, and also the ways that we talk about it and how people want to what they would like you to see of them other than their disorder. Okay, so we're going to have a look at a couple of clips. I really recommend though that you see the full video. And so if you type Lene Marie Fossen into YouTube, this TED Talk will come up. Okay, so
Here we are. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk to you as a young woman with food disorder or an artist?
An artist, no doubt.
Yeah, that's good. My first question for you, Lene Marie, is why do you carry a camera? Why do you have a camera? Why do you do photography?
It's my big passion in life, and that's what makes me feel real joy.
When did you start?
I got my first camera about when I was about 15 years old from my parents, and I always liked to travel. Or my parents have taken me around in Europe, and we have visited small nestled village, and it got a natural part of those travels. So instead of visiting the places that most tourists go, I take the other way. Yeah, inside the small villages to find people, old people with stories. When I photograph it, it is a human meeting.
But could you first tell me a little, just a small, some seconds about your food disorder?
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Well, it's very obvious that I'm not well. I've been sick for many years, but that's not how I want to be identified. I want to be identified as photographer and artist, but I want to use also my story to help other people.
I guess many.
So this is a really important point. This is a really important point that Lene Marie makes. As an individual, she wants to be identified not through her disorder, but through her creative output and what she's sharing with the world. So while she very much is aware of her disorder and also hopes that her work will speak to other people who are going through pain, and it will, tap into those emotions and let them experience and feel. But it's not the way, she doesn't want to be defined through the disorder. And I think that's actually really important, because for anyone who's got a disorder, we don't want to be defined by it. It's something that describes a set of symptoms, and it's something we can work with to think about how we might go on a path of healing and improving our health. but it's not a characteristic of the person. And so, as Lene Marie says, it's really important for her to be seen as the person first and the artist. Okay, so I'm going to go through another part. And so I really also, due to probably the sound quality, I really recommend you listen to this on YouTube. The sound quality is much better. Okay, so let's go to around here.
Because the magic in a photo is the light, and the light lives its own life, and I only use natural light, so I wait there and I work there for hours, and I kind of live in the rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your plan and ambitions for the next years now?
It's to get my photos out to as many people as possible, because I think I can help very many people with both my story and my photographs. Yeah.
In what way?
As I said before, because you don't have to have a diagnosis or be sick to feel something and to learn something of my photographing.
Are you afraid or romanticize your problems? That young women could say you are suddenly...
Actually, I get a little bit annoyed or angry when papers or somebody else asks me, because it's so far away from what my purpose is. So, but I understand why they ask, because it's so obvious that I'm sick. So.
Do you think you will be...
I think this is a really vital point that Lene Marie makes, and I'm going to stop sharing for a second. So I think this is a really important point that she makes. As someone gains attention, as someone puts out artwork, music, whatever medium it is they work in, when they put it out to the world and they start getting attention, there's a layer of negativity that can come if that person has a disorder, because what tends to happen is there's a certain response that will say, you having your disorder in front of all these people, you're going to encourage other people to have disorders, you're going to trigger things in other people's minds. And I think that's a really strange way of looking at things, because as, for example, Lene Marie, she is here, she's discussing these really important issues and having a dialogue with so many different audiences. And to say that we should limit your artwork or your exposure because you might encourage someone else to have a disorder or a disordered pattern with eating, when she's not talking about her routines, she's not talking about her relationship with her very personal philosophies on these things. She is expressing emotion which touches humans all over the world. And so for someone to put some kind of blame on the person with the disorder, that they're encouraging other people, when really they're standing there to represent something else. And this is part of a condition, which is a personal journey. I find that really problematic. If you're somebody that watches material and you feel triggered by it, that tells you something about your position and your relationship with that particular subject. So for example, everyone that I'm going to be talking about this week in my videos have all formed these patterns from a very young age. So they, for example, have had specific experiences which in young childhood made them very self-conscious and uncomfortable about their body and their body image, which led to creating these systems for living and managing those feelings and trying to change themselves. If, you know, so these are patterns, and so you don't just watch one person and then create a disorder in your head. That's just not, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't believe that's how it works. I believe it's a series of experiences, and particularly as a child, when you can't make sense of those experiences or your reaction to them, you know, that's why it's so complicated. I think that when you realize you have a disorder, or even if you don't, but you're having quite strong reactions to certain material, that is the personal cue to say, I need to remove myself, I need to stop watching this material. It's having an effect on me which is negative. The trigger is linked to something within our own experience. So that's something to explore if you're having that kind of trigger to somebody else's body, for example. And if it's for a child, then the parents should be guarding them from material that they don't understand and that could confuse their relationship with their body, or, you know, hearing things that are quite complicated with adult conversation that they only take certain parts from. But when it comes to disordered eating, it's very difficult. It's very important to talk about it, and it's very important to form support and really encouraging children to have a really healthy relationship with body and mind, and, you know, doing healthy things like exercise and what healthy eating plate looks like, what kind of foods, and really trying to foster that. But there's always going to be children who find themselves in a situation where they hear something, or they're told something, or they're bullied by other children for a reason, and that lodges very, very much into their psyche at a young age. And that's where the complexity of thinking comes from. So I think that it's incredible that the media can take somebody who's not glorifying or criticizing, but they're just using their body, and they're using their you know, the self-expression, and that it could be turned into some form of blame that you could be encouraging somebody else. It's quite interesting, actually. I shouldn't talk for too long, but I just want to say this because it was quite interesting. I really can't remember all the names and the details, but essentially there was a YouTuber who had Tourette syndrome, and he was making videos, and a lot of young people were watching these videos. And in a particular area and this particular hospital, they started to see a lot of cases where young people were being diagnosed with Tourette's, which is quite an unusual thing. So a doctor was looking into it, and they were suggesting that because these young people were watching this YouTuber a lot, they were being influenced by his tics. And I understand that because I have tics. So if I watch someone else with tics, it can set me off. So, do you know what I mean? So there was also, it was almost psychosomatic. So in that case, I would suggest that maybe they're watching too much of that material. Maybe they're watching hours of his footage and they're starting to take on his mannerisms. That's something we need to think about personally, because, you know, you can go to a YouTuber and then they've got thousands of videos, and so we can have a binge. Think about if that's healthy to be watching something back to back to back. You know, what's the content? How does it affect you? How does it what does it kind of tell you about your relationship with yourself? If it's giving you a kind of negative thinking, then, you know, it's not for you to be consuming all the time. Okay, well, I'm very passionate about this because we're going to see, I think pretty much everybody that I'm talking about, bar one or two people this week, have been in the position where people have accused them of, if you're in the spotlight, if people can see you, they can copy you. And everybody that I'm going to be talking about is going to express the challenge and the pain that they go through with their journey and how they do not want anyone else to go through it, because it's such a hard thing to go through. Okay, let's return to Lene Marie, and we're just going to watch a little bit more from Lene Marie. Okay, so all right, where did I want to go to? Let's go a bit further forwards.
Yes.
So and then you're going to have a big exhibition in Oslo and maybe also Stockholm, and you're planning a book, aren't you?
Yeah, I have a book project. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Now.
Could you imagine writing something in a book?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I
think you write as well.
I'm an artist in soul, so I like very much to write also.
Yeah.
And music, I use it a lot.
Yeah. In a way, I think when I think about you, I think about the writer poet Emily Dickinson. She lived alone the whole life, and she said a beautiful sentence: my poetry is a letter to the world that never writes back to me." I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, very.
But does the response from the audience means a lot to you, or?
Yes, yeah. Because I can see they get touched.
Yeah.
I can see tough men with motorbikes stand before my photos and cry, and they say it's the first time I cry, and then I think, well, I made it.
Yeah.
You know, when he doesn't have anorexia or something, and then so.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, I think Lene Marie really highlighted the biggest point. Her work touches so many people in so many ways, from so many different backgrounds, who bring so many different vantage points to look at her work. And I cannot encourage enough for you to go and have a look at her website, and also to watch that TED Talk in full. All right, thank you very much.